Good morning. A couple of announcements to get us started. Your compare and contrast paper last chance is due today at noon. If it's afternoon, I'm probably already grading what you have in the drive. Tomorrow, I have my grades due for progress reports, just so you know. And video chatting hours are from 9:15 to 10 a.m. in the morning and 1:15 to 2 p.m. in the morning. If one of those times doesn't work for you, just let me know and we can figure out something else. And just so you know, if you signed up for that and I gave you the links, the same links work every single day. All right, we can move on to today's focus. We're looking at determining the meaning of words and phrases, annotating poetry for literary devices, and summarizing. What you need to use is in your packet. Pages 19 and 20 is where we are working for today. So I timed myself for this next spot. I spent less than 6 minutes working on the poem, annotating the poem, doing a brief summary, and answering the discussion questions. So now is your turn to read intro to poetry, annotate the poem, and don't forget the summary and discussion questions. All right, we are back after you had some opportunity to look at that poem. You will see all sorts of my notes as I annotate it. So a couple things that I am going to point out. The first thing to talk about is some of the imagery. We have a poem compared to a colored slide, talking about a beehive. We have this mouse like trying to get out of a maze of a room, and we have this idea of like somebody being tortured at the very end. Now, how the poet Billy Collins does that is a lot of times through similes and metaphors. So I'm going to pause for a moment and then I'll be back. All right, so we have some similes. He says he compares a poem to a color slide. He also says press up to a poem like it's a hive. So again, we have this comparison of a poem to a hive. We also have this comparison right here in metaphor form as a comparing a poem to a room that you could explore. Now that I'm looking at my notes, I also see that we have this idea of somebody water skiing. So let's move on to our questions. Actually, let's look at our summaries. I just put my summary right here, right here, right here, right here. I did not go much in depth with what was being said. I instead just kept it a little bit fun. So to analyze this poem, we already talked about some of the words and images that stood out. And I just put very basic ideas. If I would go back to the poem again, I would even write in more. My reaction to the poem is I do that sometimes. When I look at a poem, instead of really enjoying it, I try to torture it and try to figure out what it means. There's an element to that in life of trying to figure out poetry, but if it's excruciating and it's torture, then this isn't good. So looking at a poem a couple times, I saw simile. The poem is compared to a slide. And the hive one, I'm going to be honest, I thought it was a simile because it's still it's continuing that idea of like that was used, but I think you could make an argument that it's a metaphor. I definitely saw a metaphor in the poem to a room. And the hyperbole is this idea of torture. Like we really aren't strapping a poem to a chair and trying to get everything out of it. That's hyperbole. And to be honest, that's even a little bit of personification now that I think about it third time around, because you're acting like a poem can be a person that can be tortured. Whew. I'm even learning things. So what do you think he's trying to say? Don't make poetry reading torture. Enjoy it. Like, look at the picture it's creating. Listen to what it's saying. And again, The real goal of poetry, explore it, try to figure it out, but don't make it painful torture. So that was our new information of the day, or our new poem for the day. I'm going to just review a little bit about what your summative assignment is by giving you an idea of how we're going to work through this summative assignment that is a big grade in the grade book. So I apologize for that, a couple of steps as we go through this to help you get an idea. You're picking your poem by tonight at midnight. You are going to annotate your poem as part of Thursday's work and turn that in by midnight. While you do that, you're going to work on figurative language and theme. On Friday, you're going to spend some time researching the poet's life and trying to figure out how their life influenced the poem you picked. On next Monday, you're going to finalize your theme statement. You're going to find evidence to support that theme and then explain it. On Tuesday, you're going to find a piece of famous artwork that has the same theme that you picked out, the same theme statement. Work on that on Tuesday. And then for the rest of the week, you are going to create your slides. The next step is presenting it, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly how we are going to present your slides. So thank you for your patience as I figure that out. So now that you know the steps, I want to remind you of the parts. You're going to put the title of your slide. You're going to use the title of your slide on one. You're going to type up your poem on another. You're going to explain the figurative language in your poem. That might take multiple slides. You're going to talk about your poet's life and how they were influenced. That might take a couple slides. You're going to have your theme statement, your evidence, and your explanation. And then you're going to have your famous artwork and then cite all of the things that you have done. Hopefully that gives you a better idea of where we are going as we step through the process. I want to remind you of the things that you have for resources. So, overview of your assignment is on pages 13 and 14. I just went through that in a different way, so hopefully you know what you are doing. As you are searching for your poem, remember you have to look at 5 different poems before you choose one. There are poetry website links that will help you find good poems. That is in Google Classroom in the page labeled. If you go to Google Classroom where it says classwork, I believe it says, or coursework, it's under important information. Your rubric is in your packet. It is page 39. If you want to see an example, there is a printout of the slides on page 15 and 16. I also included the slides show so you can see in Google Classroom under important information, and I recorded a presentation so that you can see what that looks like instead of just reading the slides. So as you go, I want to show you again the steps of how you are going to be successful. If you do one small step a day, you will be successful. You might notice too that you're picking the poem today and then you're not annotating it to Thursday. That's because tomorrow we're going to do a practice quiz so that we can see how we are progressing in figuring out poetry. All right, I will see you.